actually used to going last already. I got on a plane about a week after I got elected and was flying back to Cincinnati to the CVG airport. Mitch McConnell got on the plane, Rand Paul got on the plane, Rob Portman from Ohio got on the plane, Steve Shabbat, he's a congressman from the Cincinnati area, he got on the plane, and I get in zone 4 back by the bathroom. And I sit down next to a guy, and he jabs me in the ribs, and he says, "Do you realize who got on this plane?" So I'm enjoying the anonymity right now. I was just terrified he was going to ask me what I did for a living. I want to thank all of you for coming up here and helping inform us of the issues, the farm issues. The delegates from Shelby County have been excellent in helping inform me on some of the H2A issues. I'm from a very rural community. I was county judge executive in Lewis County. We have 14,000 people and 14,000 cattle. So, big population there. I'm used to living in a rural community. In fact, it's where I grew up, and it's where my wife and I decided to move back to. We're raising our children, we have 4 children, and on the farm that my wife grew up on. And it's great to see so many children here today. They really keep you honest. The kids do. We need more kids. I mean, DC's a swamp, so I wouldn't want a lot of kids up here, but we would be more honest if we had the kids and the wives and the spouses here. My kids are tough on me. They keep me honest. I've got a 17-year-old daughter, 14-year-old son, 12-year-old son, and 9-year-old daughter. Now, my 12-year-old son, he was fascinated with the iPhone that the government gave me. When you become a congressman, you got to pick whether you want a BlackBerry or an iPhone, and so we got the latest iPhone 5, and I'm sure Andy Barr's got one. And my 12-year-old takes the phone, he looks at it, he says, "Wow, Dad, that's pretty slick." He said, "I got a question for you, Dad." And I said, "No, you cannot put Angry Birds on that. That's a government phone." He said, "Oh, I know. You got an Obama phone." That's my 12-year-old. You should see what my 17-year-old and 14-year-old say to me. They're pretty tough. Now, growing up, raising our children on the farm that my wife was raised on, and she grew up raising tobacco and cattle. Well, her parents still live there, so it's almost like the ideal scenario. We have 3 generations on the farm. It sounds ideal until you realize these are my in-laws that live on our farm. The first 10 years ago when we moved back, there was a lot of rebuilding to do on the farm. It was a lot easier to mow without any fences, so he took out all the old fences over the last 50 years. Probably did me a favor, but I went to building fence as soon as we moved back. And I was real proud we got in the truck, and I wanted to show him my new fence that I just built. And we're driving down the fence row, and he's eyeballing it. And he says, "I got some advice for you when you go to build your permanent fence." I didn't tell him that was my permanent fence. So it can be tough. There are family issues on a family farm that I'm aware of. And so it gets harder and harder on the farm to find the labor, unless you have a lot of children. But it gets harder and harder on the farm to find the labor to get these jobs done. So that's got to be a part of the solution. Another issue that John Yarmouth, believe it or not, Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, and I all agree on, and I've introduced this bill, I'm the original sponsor of it in the House, is hemp, to legalize industrial hemp. This is not about drugs. It's defined as a certain level of THC that will be not psychoactive. It won't give you anything but a bad headache if you tried to smoke it. And it's about jobs, though. And people were saying, well, what could you use it for? And there's one single market, and Congressman Yarmouth has mentioned this, so I have to give him credit, but I realized that when it's hay season and we cut and roll our hay, I got to go to town and buy 3 things almost every day: tubes of grease, gallons of diesel, and rolls of twine. And that twine is so expensive, and all of it comes from Brazil. And it's made of natural fibers. If Kentucky just made our own baling twine, there's an industry that's millions and millions of dollars a year just in Kentucky. So it'd be great to, as Congressman Yarmouth says, to see the Kentucky Proud sticker on some of that baling twine. And we could do that in Kentucky. We could be self-sufficient. In closing, I want to mention that not just, we don't just need more cooperation between Democrats and Republicans. We need more cooperation between the Senate and the House. And you've seen the House blame the Senate and the Senate blame the House here today. So every opportunity that I get to meet with senators, I take it. So there was a meeting at Jim DeMint's townhouse, and Jim DeMint was there. Let's see, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, and Mike Lee. So I'm in the presence of some very important senators, and a little bit humbled. And I'm again just a regular guy from Kentucky, and they start talking about constitutional issues, constitutional case law. And it was because Mike Lee and Ted Cruz, they're both lawyers, and they went to school to study this stuff. And they get off in some esoteric discussion about all these Supreme Court cases where they're talking about McCullough versus Maryland. And they start talking about McCullough versus Maryland, and I couldn't follow it. And Jim DeMint looks at me. He saw I was confused, and I'm trying to think back to my 8th grade civics course. Did we cover McCullough versus Maryland in Mr. Stafford's civics class? And Jim DeMint leans over, and he said, "That's all right. I thought McCullough was a chainsaw, too." All right. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, John.